we were so excited to think of what lay ahead of us. You know, felt like we were men of the world. Now we were flying to Europe with our own bomber.
It was a bunch of young guys, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, yeah. We were 19 and 20, and you know, just full of life and ready to go. You know, but it was the only thing you worried about was dying. You know, other than that, you didn't worry about nothing. You know, everything was cool. We're just having a good time. But when it came down to it, then you worried about dying. You know, and that was about it.
And you know, before we went overseas, each one of our crew members took 10/5 of whiskey with us. I don't drink, but my crew was the biggest drinking crew you ever met in your life. But anyway, each one of us took 10/5 with us, and we put it under the floorboards of the plane and hit them. You know, well, I'm sure that a higher echelon knew that this was going on because there were too many people doing it.
Talk about the journey over there, because that's a whole lot of Atlantic Ocean to fly over. What do you remember about that journey?
I remember that we were told that if we had to go down in the drink, that you have about 3 minutes to get out, otherwise you're going to die of hypothermia because of cold water and all that. So when we were flying over there, I was taking some shots, star shots, just to keep myself abreast of where we were in case anything happened. But we made it over there without any problem. We were lucky. My buddy that was on the plane just back of us, he had a crash in the ocean, but he survived. But I mean, they came down. They lost quite a few coming down like that.
Was the journey over there okay, weather-wise? Anything eventful? Anything?
The only thing that was wrong was that we had trouble with the bellows in our gas tanks, and we were losing fuel. So we had to make all the stops all the way over because our fuel just kept losing fuel.
Did you get any strange radio signals? And we've heard sometimes the Germans would send up signals to Korea.
Yeah, we never got. We didn't have any, but we were alerted to that. We were watching for it, but we didn't see anything strange, you know, coming across.
We stopped on our first stop was in Goose Bay, Labrador, and then we went on to Greenland and Iceland, and Valley Wales was where we dropped off the plane.
At any rate, we had clouds underneath us all the way to Scotland. When we got there, the land was covered, and we were given time to hold, and so we went into a holding pattern to take our turn to land. And they told us that if you see a hole in the clouds, we'll drop through it. Well, there was a hole, so we dropped through it, and I was just amazed at the land use. Here we had so much open land, big areas. There everything was in small patches with the little hedgerows around them, you know, looked kind of like a quilt. And I was very much impressed by that. There was also an airport underneath us. So it made sense to us that that's where we were going. And we landed, and I wondered why all of these Brits were out there watching us land, and why there were only Hurricanes and Spitfires on the airport. And we landed, and I could not make contact with the tower. That is, they couldn't see us and I said, we're right down below the tower here. Just go outside and look down, you'll see us. And I said, oh, we got a report, and they gave us the name of the airport. You're at so-and-so. But we were just out of visibility range for the airport, where we took off, and in just a few minutes went over a hill, and there Prestwick was. just loaded with B-25s and B-17s and B-24s and P-51s and C-47, just every airplane, just the airport was just absolutely covered.
And that's where they took everything we had. We lost our new airplane, we lost our new parachutes. They left us with our flight jackets, took our heated suits, took everything we had.
Talk about then, once the ship landed, how you got down to the base or assigned down there.
They just, the Air Force had their own transportation.
Was it train or was it boat or truck?
There was some train and trucks both, and they just took us right to the base we were supposed to be at, and this was just the enlisted men, and because the officers were already there.
Could you tell it was a war zone?
I couldn't in England. No, not that part of England. I didn't know it till I got to London on a pass after we'd been there and flying for a while, and see that town all shot up and blown up. And
I see. So ultimately, when you got there, the countryside, it was sort of peaceful England.
Right. Yeah, it was just an ordinary countryside, like I was home or anything, you know.
Well, it's kind of austere. The squadrons were remotely, maybe a mile or so away, usually in a clump of trees or something, in the Quonset huts. And everybody was issued a bicycle, so you could get back and forth on your bicycle. And we had to learn your way around the base, the mess, where the mess hall was, and the officers' club, and so forth, and so where the operations were. So.
Well, it was just a small field. It didn't look very large. It had a lot of planes on the field, and it had a lot of farmland around. It was wide open there, and it was built on a big farm. But how they were able to manufacture these airfields out there so fast, it's unbelievable.
They had planted 135 air bases in an area of East Anglia the size of Delaware. And every 10 miles there was an air base. They said that if you were in trouble at night when you're flying, you just say Mayday, 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 and they light up a field under you. But it was densely populated by the 8th Air Force.
What did you live in the base? What were the living conditions?
We had Quonset huts there. And they weren't too bad. They couldn't get warm there. They furnished us coal, and the coal was, I forget where they said it came from, but I think it was coming up from somewhere in one of the islands out there. Because when you get it, you had a tough time getting that coal burning, and so we used to go over to the bomb dump and get some of the rings that were around the bombs and cut it up, because they had chemicals in it, and they started on fire, then that would start the coal on fire. But it was mostly coal and stone. I mean, half of it wouldn't even burn.
And were there other crews in there with you?
There was another crew. There were two crews. There were 4 of us on the one side of the Quonset hut and 4 on the other side. And we got to know them very well.
You know, for people who've never been there, I mean, what did it look like?
All they could see was the runway and the barracks you were going to live in. And
were you assigned to a Quonset hut?
Yeah, the enlisted men they had 2 crews to a Quonset hut, so there's another crew already in the hut that they assigned us to. And
were you curious about missions? And I mean, did you talk to the other crew? Hey, what's it like? You know, that kind of thing.
Yeah, they had been there for quite a while, and they kind of gave you a lesson on what's going to happen and what the days and nights are like.
Do you remember when you arrived at the base, sort of what your impressions of the base were?
Excitement. You know, it was not a new life starting all over for us because we were going to be becoming involved with our squadron. We had to meet all the boys in the squadron and meet our CO, Colonel Moeller. It was just one exciting thing after another. Of course, we were young, you know, and the youth meant everything there. It's,
How old were you when you got over there?
well, I went in at 18 and I was 19.
We got to our base during the night, and so we, of course, were not assigned any duty, and we got up kind of late and went to mess, and I believe we went to the permanent party mess, the people that were there all of the time and not combat crews. And there was just one other officer in the officers' mess eating, and he was reading a paper. And there was the thickest fog, I believe, I ever saw. And I heard this airplane flying over, sputtering, not sputtering, but making a little unique sound. And I thought I would make a smart aleck remark to this guy reading the paper. Said, "Hey, do they expect us to fly in weather like this?" And he dropped his paper down a little bit and looked at me and says, "That's a buzz bomb." We were on the route from the launching site of the buzz bombs to London. And of course, I did not know what it was, but it was not a smart aleck remark either. That and it's just routine to the guy that's reading the paper.
Germans were shooting those buzz bombs down over, come right over the air base. He says, if you can hear them, there's nothing to worry about. It's when you don't hear them. There might be one coming that the engine has quit on already. So,
Did you ever actually hear them?
oh yeah, I saw them come right over. They sound like a big blowtorch. And you heard them.
Yeah.
The first time one came over, and there was one of the guys that had been there and heard him before. He had a steel helmet he put on his head and sat in his bunk with that on his head. I don't know how that would protect you if you got blown up, but...
What was it like living on the base? Were you in a Quonset hut?
Yes, Quonset hut.
You know, people wonder what the day in and day out was like, what the food was like, how'd you stay warm, how'd you get around, that kind of thing.
It was just like everyday life. We, the Air Force treated their men well, I would say. Food-wise, medically wise, we had top shelf.
We were poor when I was growing up, so food was food to me. It was all good.
But everyone would go into like a major, like a mess hall, and they would have.
You'd go to the mess hall yourself, and then go back to your hut when you got done eating.
Does everybody get a bicycle? I mean, how do you get around?
Oh, there was bicycles everywhere. I got onto that right away. You could ride down over the hill to a little bar down there and get fish and chips. And
Did you? That was the little village of Parham.
Yeah.
And we didn't get much of a chance to meet a lot of people over on our own base because we were flying every day. As soon as you get there, they put you right away on training missions.
They checked us out on a couple of flights around that area, and more or less to give us an idea too of what it looked like from the air.
base, and immediately they put me in a loaded airplane, 2,800 gallons of gas, 10 500-pound bombs, a full crew of 9 people with flak suits and ammunition for the gun. It felt like an 18-wheel truck dragged out there on the taxiway, and it didn't have no zip or nothing. And I'm halfway afraid to try to take it off because the damn thing is loaded with explosives, and don't act like it's going to get up any speed.
Fortunately, we had a real good checkpoint there because it was right near a Framingham Castle, and this stream that came in from the coast there would point right to the castle, and the castle then would more or less point to our airfield. So it helped us many times coming back when it was so foggy that you couldn't see anything, but you spotted those landmarks and you were able to make it.
There were so many air bases, they had to put a big numeral on the ground so you'd know that's my. They all looked alike, and
were there a lot of bases?
Oh, they were like everywhere. Yeah, so you could very easily land at the wrong, land at the wrong base.
There was a castle there, wasn't there?
Yeah, in Framingham, yes, there was. Yeah,
Some guys.
Beautiful landmark. Yeah, it really was. And it had a big numeral by the tower. All these bases had a numeral, a number, so that would help you know that, yeah, that's my landing strip right there.
But we get up there to fly formation with a couple of other new pilots, and damn, I'll tell you, it's different. It's logy. And for the first hour, it's almost impossible to keep it in position. But after an hour, you burned off 480 gallons of fuel, and it's a little lighter, and it slowly gets lighter as the mission progresses. And you're doing it all with one hand. You're flying with this hand, and this hand is on the throttles. Because you have to, in formation flying, you're moving those throttles back and forwards all the time. No setting there. You're trying to fly on another guy who's flying on the leader at 150 miles an hour. But in the back of that formation, it shifts. You're going fast 1 minute and then slow the next minute and fast 1 minute.
They trained us, shall we say, even more seriously than we had at phase training, because we knew we were close to where we were going to be flying combat, and they wanted to make sure that the new crews knew what to do. And I remember one pilot, and I'm not disparaging anyone, but we were on a training mission flying formation, and I think we flew through a cloud or something like that. Well, he he just pulled out and got away from the rest, and he got chewed out because you stay in there. The key to formation flying is to stay as close to the plane you're flying off of as you can.
Why was that?
Because it concentrates your defense. Your gunners are all right there, and fighters can't come through you if you're so close. And
how dangerous was it getting that close?
Honestly, it was not that difficult to fly close formation. You had to keep your eye, whoever was at the controls, pilot or co-pilot, had to definitely concentrate on the plane that you're flying off of, so you don't, for some reason they lost power, you don't plow into them.
We re-evaluated how we would be flying formation flights. We had a Czech pilot there, and I was flying like so, and he says, "What are you doing? Get over there! Get over there! Get over there!" Till the wings are almost overlapping. But that was the design that they had that permitted the greatest safety for the formation over the time that they were there. Now, by this time, you see, it's 1945. They had gone through several formations, not altogether successful, and had settled on this type of formation.
We trained with pilots who had been in combat.
Was that helpful?
Oh gosh, yeah.
What kinds of things would they be telling you?
Well, one of the silliest things, I said it was 20 below zero, and when you're flying in Florida, it's so hot, you're wearing a t-shirt. You touch the airplane, you can get burned, There's nothing as hot as a B-17 in hot weather, and as cold as a B-17 in cold weather. I'll tell you about that later. But we were wearing a t-shirt, so when you get up to 20,000 feet, it's 20 below, and you have to start putting clothes on. And I asked the combat pilot, I said, "How do you stay warm in combat?" Because it's much colder than it's 20 below. When we flew over England, it was 60 below. And he says, "I don't know." He says, "You just look out there and you see the flak and you see the German fighters. It kind of warms you up."
Later, we even volunteered to check out some other crews, and because it was good practice for us. So we would go flying for maybe a new crew and take a new pilot and show them what we're doing or something like that, or show them some formation flying. And we did that, I'm sure, 2 or 3 weeks or more before you'd ever fly a mission or anything like that. And then you'd be in, you'd have to go to the school or the indoctrination, and they'd talk to you about the charts and where you're going and the flying over Germany or France or wherever.
What's the mood of the crew at this point? I mean,
Well, they're serious. They're nervous, and because it's a new experience, you haven't gotten into combat, and you're certainly scared. Let's look at it that way.